Welcome to Bridge to Local with Affinity Group, the podcast that connects manufacturers to local operators. With deep industry experience and a proven track record of successful partnerships, Affinity Group is your bridge to driving growth and seizing opportunities in food service. Let's build success together, one connection at a time.
Hello, everyone. I'm Mindy Kopacz, your host of Bridge to Local. We're excited to kick off this inaugural episode to cover all things C&U. We're calling this episode, Let's Give Students Something to Write Home About. Parents pay big money for their kids to get into college, and the stakes are high for colleges and universities to up their food game. Joining me today is Amanda Colgan, Vice President of Sales Effectiveness and Distribution from Affinity Group, Chip Morgan, Senior Director of Marketing from Smithfield Culinary, and Peter Testory, Director of Dining and Culinary Services from University of Wisconsin-Madison. There's so much to talk about, so let's jump right in and build that bridge to local. So I think we're going to talk a little bit about some trends happening in the C&U segment today and what that means for those of us around the table. For Peter, for you, as someone making decisions on feeding the student population and the faculty in general and anybody visiting campus, what does that mean for you? Chip, for you as a food supplier, what implications do you have in that way? What things could we be thinking about differently for the future? And then for Amanda and I from the Affinity Group sales agency side, what solutions should we be bringing back to our various partners about what makes sense on a college campus? So just to set the table, some of the challenges that colleges and universities are facing are, I think, what the rest of the food service industry is facing. There's definitely a challenge in labor, right? And in the workforce. And then culinary aspects on the students coming in. It seems like they are way more sophisticated in what they are looking for. They have a lot more sensitivities and allergies that you need to prepare for. And there's definitely a tug of war into options that they have.
I think balancing and maintaining challenges is pretty much what we do on a regular basis. You take everything you just mentioned, and then you add 8,815 preferences, just on my campus. And you're constantly kind of trying to hit the target that's constantly moving. So that's something that we work hard in, and trying to make sure that we are offering everything across the spectrum that we can, that'll meet as many students' preferences as we can. But it's a lot of challenge managing from both the front of the house to the front of the house, to the customer service perspective, to the supply chain perspective. It's really running around with a fire hydrant all day in certain circumstances.
So what would you consider one of the biggest challenges? Is it meeting all of the, I guess you could say, flavor preferences? Is it meeting all the allergy preferences? I mean, is there one in particular, or is it essentially all challenging?
I think one thing to consider on a college campus, a lot of people think that the students are our one and only customers, where really we have students that we're feeding on a regular basis. We have faculty, staff. We have plated dinners for campus fundraisers and donors. So we do everything from late night pizza production to high-end plated multi-course dinners. And all of those different groups have different preferences and different expectations for the level of service that they get. So it's really about managing all of those parts, but really our primary mission is the students that live on campus. And we really try to do everything we can to listen to them, to get their feedback, and they really drive our program as much as we possibly can. If there's something that they're looking for that we're not serving, we try to offer it, as well as trying to manage all of the feedback, right? For example, we have a dining advisory board that we have regular discussions with new programs, new services, new products, those types of things. And in our last meeting, when they were given their feedback, every one of them talked about healthy choices and how they want more healthy choices. But then also every one of them talked about how much they love the breaded chicken patties and the breaded chicken tenders. And I said to them, I was like, one of the things I love about this business is that, have you ever had a dog that chases their tail and they're having a blast doing it, but they never quite get the tail in their mouth? And that's us on a regular basis. Like, we're constantly chasing the target, we're constantly chasing our tails trying to give you all what you want. But when you say we want more healthy options, but we want more fried things, those two don't match. So we have to do our best to find the happy medium in those requests.
Is that Dining Advisory Council, is that a student-led or a staff-led or both?
Nope, it is. So it's a student group. They meet with the senior leadership team within dining every 2 weeks, and then they meet with their unit management team every other week. We try to have a student that represent each of our residence halls on campus, and then they represent the constituents that live in that building. So we do a lot of training that they're not there to represent themselves, their friends, their house fellows, that they really are to try to keep their hand on the pulse of their entire building that they represent. And we really take value into the information they share with us, and we really try to institute things that they want to see and make them part of the program throughout the year. And it is a paid position as well.
I like your analogy of the dog chasing its tail. I mean, we deal with similar stuff on the manufacturer side in terms of everybody says they want healthy, and then you create this great product that it's, but it has healthy right there on the box, and then all of a sudden nobody wants it. I have a theory that people want healthy on Monday through Wednesday, and then once you get to Wednesday, it declines. The wish for health declines every day until you get to Thursday, and then it's out the door. By Friday and Saturday, the word health doesn't even exist. You're going to do what you want to do and what you enjoy and what you like. And unfortunately, it's the same way with food. Finding products that people are willing to forego that decadence or whatever it might be, and that additional flavor. And because let's face it, generally speaking, if you're doing something more healthy, you've got to take something out that gives it the flavor, whether it's the butter or the fat or whatever it might be. That's an issue. So how do you meet that need?
Well, and then there's healthy is subjective. Healthy can mean so many different things to so many different people, whether it's carnivore, vegetarian, vegan. You name it. There's a ton of gluten-free. There's a ton of diets out there that people will view as healthy, and that's not something that we get into. We have a dietitian on campus, but she doesn't act in a clinical capacity. She acts in a nutritional capacity of evaluating our menus, our products, tagging our allergens, making sure that we're where we need to be in those areas. But if you tried to hit everyone what they consider healthy, I don't think you could ever hit that mark, because it's subjective. I want to go to the gym every day, but my car just doesn't turn into the parking lot as I drive by it. So I think that what people want in voice is different than actions. Just as, sustainability, this has changed over the last few years, but 3 or 4 years ago, sustainability was a huge topic, and every student cared, and every student had an opinion and wanted to see, that program. But then when it came to actions, they were not sustainable. So it's a matter of I want to be sustainable in my words, but I'm not going, if it inconveniences me in any way or makes me change what I want, I'm not going to go that direction. That's changed since then. We are seeing that students are taking the extra steps and taking the actions necessary. But I think everybody wants to do the right thing, and everybody thinks eating healthy is the right thing. But eating is emotional, right? You could have a bad test or a bad day or trip on the crack in the sidewalk, and then you need to go have nachos, right? To make it all better. So again, it's back to managing all of that and just trying to hit that target.
Okay, so you mentioned sustainability. Let's dive into that a little bit more. I know that is a key element for students. Can you talk to us a little bit more about how that drives your planning and what you're doing?
Yeah, so sustainability, we have our expectations from our students. We have our expectations from campus. We have our expectations from county. We have our expectations from state. So we kind of get all of it from different areas. I think, at the end of the day, it really boils down to doing the right thing. And when you can incorporate sustainability into your program, you do. And what does that mean? Managing food waste, managing compost, trying to divert as much as you can away from the landfill. Trying to work with as many local providers as you can. That makes sense from both a logistical and a financial perspective. Working with your manufacturers to understand their sustainability practice. Our students care about who we do business with. And one of the things we do with our dining advisory board is we'll bring manufacturers to do presentations for them, whether it's a webinar or in person, or whatever the case may be, because we put we want them to know the effort we put into of who we do business with, and that we vet them and that we look at their sustainability practices to make sure that their values meet our values. And that's extremely important to us, not only from a product quality standpoint, but it goes beyond that, right? Sustainability practices, treatment of workers, animal welfare, all of those types of things. Students want to know that information, and we want to know before they want to know, so that if there is something that we can kind of get in front of that and make changes as we need to. I think one of the things that manufacturers can really do to help us is when we look at packaging, right? How can we reduce the amount of cardboard, the amount of plastic, bigger pack sizes, in some cases, smaller pack sizes, in other cases, where does that make the most sense? And how does it help both parties, right? It can't just be, we want to make these changes to help the operators, because we understand it has to go both ways, right? There has to be a benefit from both areas. One of the cool stories that I like to tell is we asked our distributor to start to reduce their pallet shrink wrap and to look at using pallet blankets instead. And they immediately jumped on board. And within a matter of weeks, we were eliminating a third of the plastic wrap that comes on our pallets on a daily basis. And when you're getting 20 plus pallets, sometimes per unit on a daily basis, that's a lot of shrink wrap that we reduced out of our recycling channels. So again, it's open communication and working with your partners to see what you can do to improve those sustainability efforts.
Yeah, I mean, from our standpoint, Smithfield Foods is, just to, tout our horn, if you will, for a bit. I mean, we made huge strides in sustainability over the past 10 or 15 years. I mean, major focus on this issue, because we know that it's very important to, our customers and their customers in this case and everything. So, I mean, we've done stuff like, wastewater. And I mean, a third of our facilities are like zero waste to landfill, right? We have goals to be, carbon neutral by 2030. So there's a lot of different things that we're doing. The thing that we aren't great at, I think, speaking to what you were talking there, is how do we communicate that, right? So again, going back to the healthy thing, right? You can spend a lot of advertising dollars and money and everything telling that story when a lot of people don't necessarily care. So how do you communicate that on a regular basis to the people that it's most important to, right? And that would be one of the, college universities, obviously, is an area. So how can we speak that language, and how can we get in front of you and your customers to tell that story better?
Do you produce an annual sustainability report?
We do,
for
absolutely.
Your constituents?
Every year. I mean, you can go to the Smithfield Foods website, and you'll be able to see every single thing that we do from a sustainability standpoint. Going to your point, Peter, all of the different areas, whether it's animal welfare or human welfare, and how do we do in our plants and everything else like that. We also do we have a program where we convert methane to renewable energy, right, from on our farms, from hog manure and everything else like that. So we got a couple of different states, I think North Carolina and Virginia, where we do that, which, you can convert that, and that allows you, the carbon discounts and everything along those lines. I don't know the exact verbiage there, but yeah, we do some fantastic stuff. We just got to do a better job from a food service standpoint of telling that story.
We're not phenomenal at telling our story either. We will get a lot of, in our surveys, we'll get a lot of feedback from students of things we already do or things they'd like to see that we already do. So that's something that we have to work on, as well as letting our students know all of the different efforts that we have. When you look at the decisions that they're making at the point of service, one of the projects we're working on now is carbon labeling all of our menu items, so that when students come up to select a meal, that they'll see the carbon footprint that particular recipe has, and then putting that power in their hands. We haven't quite determined yet how to rate it. Some schools have done a red, yellow, green type of system. I'm not really a fan of that, because that's kind of indicating that red is bad, and I don't ever believe that we should be in a situation of going to say that this is bad, this is a bad product, because that's not really our decision to make. But giving them more information so that if they want to steer themselves in something that's more carbon neutral, that they have that information and that they can do that.
And so do you do that for like menu items in cafeterias to the actual prepackaged? I mean, does that span all the different?
So we're starting with kind of our menu-driven items inside of our dining facilities.
How are you planning to collect the information from your supplier or your manufacturer partners?
So the company we're working with is called Meta, we're providing them the information and they're giving us back the carbon information affiliated.
So, okay, so it's probably more of like just a generic industry average of the item, or?
I'm not sure what metrics they use on their end to kind of give the rating.
Do you find that if I really want the burger, but I know the salad might be better, sometimes I might choose the salad, but I may choose the burger? Is sustainability faced with that same thing? Like, does the overall want or craving of the student trump all? Or where does the sustainability practices stack up in the priority listing?
I think for us, the priority is to do the right thing when we can. That's our programmatic priority. I think from a student customer perspective, it's up to them which direction they want to go on any given day. Again, there's so many different things that can steer them into a particular preference that day. I think what we want to do is we have students that are living outside of their primary home for the first time ever. They're making choices for the first time ever. They're coming in and eating pizza every day just because they can, right? And they didn't have there's no one else telling them, you really should try something else today other than a slice of pizza.
Where's your vegetables?
So we want to create behaviors, right? We want to kind of plant that seed so that when they move into their apartment their second year, that they're thinking about recycling, they're thinking about compost, they're thinking about all of the things that they heard or saw while they were living in housing and dining with us in our facilities, that's going to transfer into their adult life. And if that happens, we would consider that the major success.
How do you help them that way by communicating with your partners? Like, do you ever announce, hey, we worked with the distributor and we got the plastic waste down by a third? Is that something you trumpet to the students? And what can you get from manufacturers and suppliers, or what do you need from them in order to be able to do that?
Yeah, I think we definitely tell those stories as best we can. I think one of the things that we always try to talk with manufacturers about is we want to be more than just a customer that buys something off of a truck. We want to be a strategic partner with our manufacturing partners, right? We want to have that strong relationship. And we want to, I just mentioned we have, 8,000 plus future consumers that are eating with us in our dining facilities every day, multiple times per meal. And if we can get manufacturers' names in front and when they go to the grocery store, they can see, oh, I remember having that, in my dining facility. The other thing is we want to be part of the innovation process, right? I think that a lot of times we will get products brought to us that we can't use, or there's something in it that's a deal breaker, whether it's an ingredient or a cooking process or whatever the case may be. Whereas if we were part of the ideation process and the manufacturer would bring a product to us in the earlier stages, we could be part of it and like, no, we can't use it like this, but if it was this, we could use it. And that's for every CNU business out there, right? And if we can use it, just about, again, every other CNU program out there can use it. So we want to be strategic partners. We want to be part of that product development. We want to get our manufacturing partners in front of our students, whether it be through samplings, tabling, station takeovers, whatever the case may be. We participate in a lot of those and really have this joint relationship, right? And be strategic partners on both ends. So I think that's where manufacturers can really help us, and to be part of our programs is to not to just come in and sell us something off a truck, but to really be partners in our programs.
Yeah, and I mean, I would totally agree, and we do some of what you're talking about there. We have a chef advisory board, and from that chef advisory board, we get ideas, and this is the way we should do it. Versus, we get pricing. Like, hey, this is not worth it to me that way, but if you do this, then it is. We've expanded that this year where we've increased. We've had one that was more, I would call it more commercial focused, if you will. And this year we started a non-commercial advisory group. Specifically because even though, food service is food service, you have different needs and everything. And I think obviously non-commercial has some different needs than your commercial base. So we're trying to expand our knowledge in terms of the information that we get from our customers. Because at the end of the day, we want something that is sustainable from a sales standpoint. I don't want to sell it to you one time. I want to sell it to you 100 times because it works for both of us. And you make money off of your resell or serving your students or whatever, and we make money off of what we do. So it's got to be, us working together to figure out the best, most efficient path to taking care of our own customers.
So, Chip, how would you want information to come from Peter and his colleagues in the industry? What you have a board that you're gathering information for on a directed scale, but is there some communication pathway, or is there some opportunity to bridge the two sides together with more open dialogue of things as they come up or when they come up? What would you need, Peter? What do you see as a opportunity or a need to do that as well?
I mean, from my side, and then I'm very interested to hear what Peter has to say, is from my side, it's a bunch of data points, and you've got to put the story together from that, right? So we get stuff from Technomic and from Datassential and the different places where we research, and they tell us what's going on, specifically whether it's from an economic standpoint or flavor standpoint or any of those different things. We have our advisory boards, which gives us information and tells us, what they're doing, what they're up against on a day-to-day basis. Again, it's more anecdotal because you're getting from an individual as opposed to, numerically large numbers of people telling you different things, but that gets you the real feelings a lot of time and understanding, the day-to-day needs of those things. So those are both important. The other thing is we got to depend upon our sales team. Our sales team has to come back to us and say, feedback the information that they get from their customers in terms of, what do we need to do from them? And overall, I think our sales team does a good job. But, again, everybody's busy. Everybody's got a lot of stuff going on. At the very end of the day, we just got to listen. That's really what it comes down to, is when people tell you something, listen to them and then figure out how you can apply that.
Yeah, I think for us, it's again, those conversations, right? Really meeting at the table, discussing our programs, learning about our programs. What are the challenges we have? What are we looking at? A lot of times, those trend reports that come out, they're getting the information from us for those trend reports. Yeah. So come and talk to us and get in front of those trend reports, kind of before they come out. So again, it's that open dialogue. It's not, hey, we have this product, can you use it? It's, hey, what type of products are you looking for? What are the requirements of them? What are the challenges you're facing right now? How can we help you from any products we can develop that can be part of your program?
So college campuses are more and more diverse, and people are coming from all around the world, multiple countries, things like that, and they're looking to their food service options to essentially have a lot of these flavors of home. And how are you managing that at UW?
Yes, we have just under 50% of our students are from outside of the state of Wisconsin or international. And when you look at students that are coming in from the East and the West Coast, students that are coming in from overseas, students that are from Wisconsin at home, all of those preferences are very different, right? And they all grew up eating very different things. I've been in this business in the senior